BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Phil Goodlad and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, the views, the analysis you need on Wednesday the 19th of March. We are nearly there. It's nearly game day and the young guns are eager to stake a claim for the national side.
They're not here to make the numbers up, they're here to take our places if eventually they're better than the ones that are here. They need to have that confidence, they need to come here and not just make the numbers up, come here and try and get a starting position.
John McGinn tells Lennon Miller he'll get his turn as a Scotland first choice. Another first-time Scotland pick is getting praise from the coaches as well.
He brings us a different dimension. Obviously we lost Dykesy because of injury and he's a little bit similar to Linden, but what a goal he scored at the weekend. What a way to leave his club football and come to international football.
Will new boy George Hurst get the nod up front? Plus,
Happy days! They have nicked it in injury time! Wild celebrations for Greece! This will be their first ever win against England!
what do we make of Greece?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Lots to discuss, and I'm delighted to say we'll discuss it with Lee Miller, former Scotland striker, a man who's lifted silverware with the national side. Lee, morning to you.
Morning, Phil.
And Steve McGinn, former Hibs, St Mirren and Falkirk midfielder, and a man who won many a merit prize at primary school for attendance. Stephen, good morning to you.
Morning, Phil.
I'm being rather flippant. What have you won in your glittering career? And I say that with all due respect because you have been involved in championship winning sides.
Yeah, a couple of championship wins, so not the Kieran Cup.
Yes, but let's face it, when it comes to show me your medals, a championship slog winning title is much better than a booze cruise down to South Korea to pick up a meaningless trophy, surely, Stephen?
Well,
The fact I was a hamper boy and played 5 minutes, I'll take it.
Listen, lots to discuss, and I wonder where we should start, Stephen, with Lennon Miller's dad on the podcast this morning. Listen, there's so much been written about Lennon Miller's comments earlier this week, Lee, and I want to speak to you not as a father, but actually as somebody to question what we are doing in this country when it comes to bringing through young sports people. Because right from an early age, we're telling them to express themselves, to be confident, to be the best they can be. So why then does it seem we jump on a player's back when he says, yeah, I think I could be the best player?
Yeah, I just, listen, I listened to his interview, his press conference, and it was so good for an 18-year-old to put in front of cameras. Spoke really well. It was very respectful. I couldn't wait to get meeting up with John McGinn and learning things from him and Billy Gilmore and whatnot. And I knew as soon as he said that, and all it is, all us footballers, journalists, it's a bit of word vomit. That's what it was. And he blurted it out. Yes, he wants to become the best player. Who doesn't? He's confident, but the way it comes across and the way everybody's portrayed it, it's as if he's arrogant and cocky, and he's so far from that. It's unbelievable. Yes, he's got inner belief. That's what he was asked about. But he's humble and respectful, and it's just a case of word vomit, and he's brought it out. But he believes in himself. Why shouldn't he? It's his first call up. He's just come off the back of training. He's into a press conference, and everybody's questioning him.
Here is the line. I'm obviously not going to go in and be the best player there, but I believe I could maybe in a couple of months be the best player there, said Lennon Miller. I mean, Stephen, it's unfair to ask Lee this, and Lee and I apologise because, of course, you've got skin in the game when it comes to a certain Lennon Miller. But there is, and as journalists, we're probably the bad ones in this because we go to press conferences and we speak to people and we always moan when nothing interesting is said, and then when something is interesting said, it's written up and people jump on it as, oh, look at the arrogance of this guy. He's 18. Why should he not say, I want to be the best I can be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely, I think he's, as Lee said, he's a slip of the tongue in terms of thinking out loud.
But hold on.
It's
not a slip of the tongue, because what he said he means. The problem now is that he will be media trained to an inch of his life, and he won't say that sort of thing again. And we all lose because of that.
It'll be guarded now. So instead of just the paper saying you didn't really mean in 2 months, we'll let that one slide. The next time he's there, he's guarded. He doesn't really let out what he's thinking. My brother, who has gone on to be one of the top Scottish midfielders, at 18 believed he was going to be the best Scottish midfielder. He's gone up against Scott Brown head to head and thinking, I can get to that level. He drops down to the Championship, so he gets called up for the Scotland squad in the Championship and kind of keeps his head down and ultimately gets there. But to call it a mistake, and we're probably looking across the border, there's a man, the Tottenham manager, Ange Postecoglou, is getting almost held a gun to his head because he said he wins in the second year. And it's like, you want to hear the openness in the interviews, and then you say something and then it gets held against you. So absolutely not a mistake to think that he wants to be the best.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing was the 2 months. He just blurted out word vomit, and it's like, oh no. But to say, I want to eventually be the best player, why can't you say that? Why can't you say that? You've got belief in yourself. He was asked about inner belief. He trusts himself. He backs himself. He wants to get to the very top. So why not?
What will happen now, and we all lose out, I guess, in the end, is that, and to defend my trade, journalists ask the questions, they get the answer, and they write it up. And, some may spin and some may put out headlines that's misleading, but in this case, you quote what the player has said. But what's going to happen, and I've seen this when I was on the rugby beat, is that we had young guys who came through at Murrayfield and would come out to the rugby pack and would speak about how good they played or how good they want to be. I remember going to the 2015 World Cup after a really bad defeat to Ireland at home, and one young impressionable Scotland player came out and said, well, I still think we can win the World Cup in 4 months' time. And you're almost wanting to stop the interview and say, right, listen, if you say this is going to be used against you. But of course, that's not our job. But what's going to happen now is that Lennon Miller won't say anything like that ever again. And then we're going to start being really bored as the media going, well, I wish somebody would say something. But then when they say something, this is what happens.
But what do we want as fans as well? We've been obviously a number 9 for Scotland. There's nobody really absolutely grabbed the jersey. We want George Hurst to be the best striker in the world. We want him to think he's going to score a hat-trick against Greece. So
I think they've got to go into that squad thinking, I can get there. I want to get there. But see, the thing that annoyed me a little bit was, it was such a good press conference interview, the whole thing. He spoke really well. He spoke about it's a dream come true. Listen, 3.5, 4 years ago, Lennon made his debut for the under-16s and he was 14 and he scored for the halfway line against England. That doesn't get brought up. You're like, why can't you go on a positive spin about it, and then everybody just goes on, oh, look at him, he's one. It's strange how the press work, but that's how they work. And I knew as soon as it was said, I knew that would be the headline.
Well, when it was said and you heard that, did you phone Lennon and commiserate with him almost?
No, you know what, Phil? I spoke to him when I came home from work, and I said, oh, listen, I listened to your interview. It was excellent. It was really good. 2 months you're going to be the best player? And he just laughed and thought, oh, I know, I messed up. And I said, no, listen, you've got belief in yourself, but obviously the wording, and that's all it is, word vomit. See, when you're put in front of that camera, when you're asked so many questions, you feel as if you have to say something, and he's just blurted that out. 2 months, and it's like, oh no. He probably never thought about it at the time, but when I was winding him up about it, he just kind of laughed and thought, oh no. But hopefully that doesn't affect him. It doesn't affect anything about him. So,
Stephen, you mentioned George Hurst. Can we just all agree that we're going to call Hurst Jr. David Hurst's son? I've never felt so old in football in my life as having to speak about David Hurst's son. What was it? I think it was Steve Clark earlier in the week said it was John Carver, sorry. He's a good old-fashioned striker. He knows where the goal is. Man, have we been crying out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably like other fans around the country, tuning in to watch his goal from the weekend. It's a brilliant header. Really good header. And as when you think of, obviously the Nations League qualifier against Greece is a game that the guys, and they want to win, they want to stay into Group A. But a lot of this squad for the most part, has been together for a few years now, including the manager. This is maybe the last crack together at the World Cup, and it's a chance to see what Greece looks like. But moving forward to get to World Cup, I mean, with the extra teams in the Euros, it's still difficult to qualify, but it's more achievable. The World Cup's still very, very hard, and it might come down to a shootout between ourselves and Greece to who gets there. So this is a bit to kind of show our teeth, see what they've got, but also we really need a number 9 probably and a goalie to step up over the next year. I'm not sure what will happen with Craig in terms of by the end of the World Cup qualifying group, but if he is able to grab this jersey and make it his own, it gives us a real chance of getting to the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, we have James Wilson from Hearts, we have Lennon Miller, we also have George Hurst. I mean, straight away there's a tendency to view tomorrow night's game and the return match at Hampden almost as a chance to blood the next generation. There's one drawback to that, which is Steve Clarke, because throughout his Scotland career, he has never looked at a game as saying, oh, well, we'll blood a quarter of a new team in, especially given the importance he's putting on trying to stay in the top tier of the Nations League, Lee, to face the better opposition.
Yeah, but like Stephen says there is a new batch coming through, and they need to prove to everybody that they can step up. And
do you think they'll play tomorrow night?
Sorry?
Do you think the three of them will play?
Will play or feature?
Probably both.
I hope they feature. I do. I hope they get given a chance and an opportunity. But Greece are a good outfit. Greece are a really good outfit, and Steve Clarke can't take it lightly. But you look at Ben Doak, he's thrown him in eventually. And I think everybody could see the benefits from his attacking style of play and the no fear factor from a young player getting in. And I've watched Ben Doak for years. It was in Lennon was in his kind of Scotland group coming up through, and he plays with no fear. You can see that if anybody he plays against, he plays the same way. He doesn't care who he's playing against. He just goes and attacks. So that's what obviously I think the fans are looking for is that excitement, but they need to prove it because there are really good players in that squad and they've been together a long time and they've gelled together well over the years and they've come up with some great performances and results. So it's interesting times. It is. It's exciting times.
I don't think we're at that stage, Phil, where it's like you almost feel as if you have to throw in 4 or 5 teenagers because we're at that. Although the Euros were ultimately a disappointment, it's a team, a squad, a group that came off the back of being at a major tournament. We've just come off the back of back-to-back wins at Group A level, away home to Croatia, away to Poland. So there is decent momentum. But what Lee said is good as within that group, and they are an experienced group, they're an older group now. All of a sudden you get a Ben Doak in, all of a sudden you get George Hurst, a Lennon Miller, James Wilson. You get 4 or 5 in. It's not so much as maybe when Bertie Vogts just ripped it all up, put Faddy in, put Dan Fletcher in, and it took a few years for them to kind of mature.
Yeah,
we want to blood them while still being competitive to get to tournaments.
Yeah, 100%. And then seeing what they're like in an environment, just around the hotel, on training ground, maybe feature now and again in games, but it's about mingling and gelling with that experienced group.
Yeah. We had Stephen O'Donnell in Good Morning Scotland yesterday giving us an insight into what it's like being called up to a Scotland camp and, you know, effectively be in camp for 5 days before a game, and because it's a double header also staying on. And it was really interesting just to get his insight, because I think we sometimes on our side of the fence as fans forget that it's not just about 90 minutes. It's effectively, in this Scotland camp, is 8 days away from your family, your friends, and almost living inside the heads of your teammates. And while that sounds, listen, a 5-star hotel away from the kids and get a good night's sleep, man, that sounds great. But actually, after 8 nights of being with the same personnel and the frustrations and sometimes the irritabilities that can rise up, it is important to have new young players maybe not get involved on the pitch, but actually being around the team environment to that point, to have them gel with the squad.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you ask Craigie about getting away from his family, his kids and that, he'd be delighted. But no, I think it's important that the players, and I know that for a fact because I know a few of them, they'll be welcoming the young boys in, and it's good the fact that there is a few that know each other, like your Max Johnsons, your Wilson, and all the rest of them coming up. I think they've kind of went 21 Slicker, they 21s together, so they all kind of know each other in a group, and then they'll be welcomed into that bigger group, and they'll all just flourish. So it's good for that point of view. But fans don't realise and understand that it's not just the 90 minutes, the 2 games that they're playing. It's the training sessions, it's the dinners, it's the initiation songs, it's all the different things that play along with it.
What was your song?
Oh, I had a few, Phil. I had a lot of clubs, remember.
That's for a podcast for another day, I think, initiation songs. Kieran Tierney is back, Stephen. Where does he play?
Where does he play?
Yeah.
Not left wing like he did in the Champions League.
He's a new faddy.
No, but it is an interesting one in terms of Steve Clarke. Obviously, I spoke about the bit of momentum, obviously, off the back of back-to-back, but that was with a 4 at the back. So does he go back to the back 3, back 5, depending on how you see it? With Tierney and Robertson back together, I'm not so sure. Is he more encouraged to do it because Ben Doak's not there? So you've not got that natural width and pace. So do you bring back Tierney and Robertson together? But it's great to see him back. It's great to see him back playing football. You know, you speak about hotels and kind of together. I was back in the team hotel just seeing John, my mum and dad, and watched Kieran Tierney. He's heavily limping after his really bad injury against Switzerland. And just no matter how much you're getting paid, no matter the level you get to football, that horrible feeling of when you're limping, you know that's you've got a bad one and you're not going to play football and everything that comes with it. So great to see him back playing football. Wish it was more regular. Obviously at Arsenal, I think we might see that at Celtic. But an injury-free Kieran Tierney makes the team better. So yeah. Steve Clarke will fit him in.
And we're also speaking about the new young players that's been brought into the squad. We're overlooking Lewis Ferguson, who I think we won't call a young player anymore, but because he's been out for so long and he was just on the fringes of making a real impact in the starting 11, now that he's back from injury, do we expect him in midfield tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think we do. I think a fully fit, doing really well in Bologna just now. He plays for Scotland. It's so difficult because you've got so many good players in there. We're speaking about the youth players coming in and trying to make an impact, but you've got John McGinn, you've got Billy Gilmore, you've got Scott McTominay, all these players, Lewis Ferguson, Kenny McLean, all these players are playing at such a high level, and that's what we need as Scotland fans. Kieran Tierney playing every week, hopefully he gets that. It's an exciting team. I go through the team, look at it, and it's proper players that have a style of playing as well, and they all are used to each other as well because they've been together for years. So yeah, I just think it's exciting times for Scotland, and hopefully they can go over there and get a result.
Let's turn our attention to the opponents then, Greece, and let's get used to them because we're going to see them quite a lot over the next 14 months or so, both in the Nations League playoffs and then in the World Cup qualifiers. Lee, what do you make of the Greeks? Yeah,
listen, they're a good outfit. They won the last 6 apart from 3-0 against England, but they beat England in their own home patch. Do you know what I mean? That's not an easy thing to do. I just think they're tidy on the ball, and it'll be a hostile atmosphere as well. It'll be a tough game, really tough game. I think they're really good at home, which could be difficult for us, but no, we'll go over there with a game plan and hopefully we can turn them over.
Stephen, can we put much emphasis on the win at Wembley for Greece last year?
I mean, you give your nod to what it would take for us to win at Wembley in terms of how well you need to play. So they obviously have a kind of 9 or 10 out of 10 game in their levels. I watched a game against Ireland. They won 2-0 at home to Ireland and they were so comfy. They were so good. They battered Ireland on the night. They've got, I think, Pavlidis. From watching Celtic against Club Brugge and Aston Villa 3 times against Club Brugge, they've got a young player, Christian Solis. He's excellent and really good. He'll be a real threat for Scotland over the 2 ties. But I think Scotland are organised enough to go over there. I think we could go back with a draw. I think a draw would be a great result.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you get Greece to Hampden, second leg, it's kind of this new format. We're not used to these two-legged playoffs, but 3 days later, I think if we get a draw over in Greece, we've got enough in the tank with the home support to go through over the 2 legs.
It's funny because quite a lot of the chat in the build-up to this game, and indeed across all the back pages this morning, is about the number of caps now that we have built within the squad. You know, the likes of John McGinn, the likes of Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson, if he plays tomorrow night, will become the third most cap player of all time, and he's only 31. He says he's gunning for a Kenny Dalglish's record of 102 caps. But Tassos Bakasitas is missing for Greece, their captain. How big a blow is it, Lee, when your team, your leader, the captain of the group, is out and you are going into a double header where it's unlike a one-off match whereby there's aggregate scores involved, but also it's unusual. And what strikes me when I'm always speaking to you guys is that sometimes in football you can get spooked by things that's not the norm.
Yeah, I think obviously having your captain, an experienced player, is crucial, is vital, but I flip it around, you look at Scotland, see if Robertson was missing. You've got John McGinn stepping in, who's a really experienced campaigner. You've got Scott McTominay. I'm pretty sure Greece will have their experienced players to then step in and show up on the night. There'll be leaders within that group. I don't think it's yes, it's important, but no, I don't think it will change anything to do with their setup and the way they'll come and play against Scotland. So, no, I wouldn't worry too much about that, no.
I know it's probably far too early to do predictions, but given that we like to rip up the rules on this podcast, let's go for a prediction. Stephen, what do you think happens, firstly, tomorrow night? Like, forget the tie as a whole, we'll come to that, but for the away leg for Scotland.
When I was thinking about the game tomorrow night, I'm actually thinking about the full calendar year. We've got 4 huge games against Greece. The latter 2 probably being as big for this generation and the 2 biggest games in terms of that's the team we need to finish above if we want to go to the World Cup.
And those World Cup qualifiers you feel much more important than the Nations League doubleheader?
Yeah. Obviously the next game, I don't want to dismiss the importance of the next game, but the World Cup's huge. I think for this as that generation's last chance. You speak about the amount of caps and how long they've been together, the manager. I think that's a big... And I think this is the first of 4 games against Greece in a calendar year, which is a lot at international football level. And I think tomorrow night will be a draw with both teams, almost like early rounds of a boxing fight where both teams just kind of sizing each other out.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
And Lee, for the tie as a whole?
Yeah, I think we've got to be confident. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get what Stephen says, we can get a draw across there and then bring it back to Hampden and the crowd get behind us and we put on a Hampden performance and get through the tie, yeah. You
say be confident, but we have to be careful in being too confident.
Yeah, no, of course. No, but listen, we've
because you know what happens if somebody says that they're really confident. So you're too slow there, Lee.
I knew exactly where you were going. But no, we have to, obviously. We've had some great results over the years, so hopefully this can be another one, yeah.
I'm off to be the best broadcaster I can be, and who knows, in 2 months' time, I may become the best of the best. Stephen, what are you going to be today, the best that you can be?
The best dad, because I'm waiting to get downstairs here.
And in 2 months' time, could you be the best dad in the world?
No chance.
Never.
Lee, what are you going to be the best at today?
Just going to be the best version of myself. I think everybody has to be that, haven't they?
And can you be a better version of yourself in 2 months' time?
Yeah, definitely. Why not?
You see, that's the sort of confidence we're trying to breed in Scottish football, is it not? Lee, you're a good sport. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Lee Miller and Stephen McGinn, always great to have you on ahead of what is a big night tomorrow night for the McGinn family, big night for the Miller family as well, big night for us as a nation, one you can hear on Radio Scotland, as you have done for many, many, many a year with the Scotland men and women's team live on BBC Radio Scotland. But also, and I'm sure the BBC press office has cranked out a press release or 2 on this over the last few days, you can also watch it as well on BBC TV as the new deal for BBC games, for Scotland games on the BBC kicks into view. Scotland against Greece for you. We have it covered across BBC Scotland. Remember, the BBC football podcast for Scottish football. It's a daily one, which is the clue that you're looking for. So click on your notifications, and each day the podcast will drop for you to listen. Or you can do the old-fashioned thing and just go to BBC Sounds and click on play with your little mouse. For now, though, I'm Phil Goodlad, and as ever, I've spoken far too much. So we will speak again soon, and enjoy our beautiful game.
On BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated...
They said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
He caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.